Okay, Twilight, I'll just be taking my leave, along with a good chunk of your library, possessions, and Spike. Your own rules. Per the IDW Comics issues 25 and 26, as a legal citizen of Equestria, I enjoy total protection from magical aggression, which somehow translates into me being able to violate the law with impunity. So I'll just be on my way while you... Oh, I can't do it. This is so contrived. Here's your stuff back. Here's your #1 assistant back. And you, Missy, should have launched me into orbit 5 times by now, because you are not the kind of pony who would just sit back and let this happen. And I'm gonna tell you why. Our comic begins with the main 6 riding on a train, commonly known as the Exposition Express.
He needs his dress so we can give him as a gift to my relatives in Appaloosa.
Ever since I moved to Ponyville, we've been seeing each other less and less. We're all going to the Rainbow Falls Traders Exchange!
The story this time is that the ponies are on their way to Cantor Creek, home of Rancho Bronco. Applejack's great-granduncle Chili Pepper has disappeared, and the town is looking to her to help settle things. Applejack is very vocal in criticizing her great-granduncle, who supposedly never had much sense. They're greeted at the train station by Sheriff Tumbleweed. This is what, the 5th stallion that Rarity's had a crush on? As they leave, Pinky asks the audience if they should be paying more attention to the wanted posters on the wall. And we would, if you'd show them to us. Anyway, Applejack's about to eat humble pie, as Rancho Bronco is not just successful, but it's the central hub of commerce and the lifeblood of Cantor Creek. Not unlike how Granny Smith and family helped found Ponyville, or how Brayburn is helping to build up Appaloosa. Gotta say this for the Apple family, wherever they go, communities seem to spring up. We get some unique expressions as Pinky tries out a Wendigo Chili Pepper. And to this comic's credit, artist Andy Price and colorist Heather Breckel are in top form. There's a wide palette of colors for both the ponies and the landscape, and the art is top-notch. The problems with the story come in as Sheriff Tumbleweed explains that a cattle rustler named Longhorn and his gang are terrorizing the town, finally showing us a wanted poster. Fans of the comic have cited that these same rustlers showed up in Friends Forever #8 and were thoroughly whooped by Applejack and Rarity, so it's hard to envision them as big threats for a 2-parter. Yet as we're about to see, the idea that these guys might have done some ab crunches and push-ups since then is the easiest thing to accept, especially with what happens next. It may not seem like it, but this one scene sours the rest of the story. IDW editor Bobby Curnow posted in the official forums that this story was intended as a farce, a parody of westerns like a certain other tale.
He rode a blazing saddle, he wore a shining star.
And it's true that most slapstick humor is based on pain. It ain't funny unless it looks like it hurts. Yet another element to slapstick is that it's short-lived, that the character will be back to normal in the next scene, and that the surrounding characters aren't put off by the event. It's not the sheriff's pain that makes this serious. It's the pony's expressions. Those looks of shock tell the reader that this isn't slapstick, it's assault. Applejack tries to stand up against the bulls. Or should I say she tries to stand Twilight up. The characterization until now has been debatable, but this is the first clear out-of-character moment. Applejack has never volunteered her friends for a fight, but I guess she gets her just comeuppance. That's now 2 ponies that have been assaulted in front of Twilight. And what's her reason for not teleporting the bulls into the nearest jail cell? That it's one thing to use magic against a monster like a Hydra, but cattle are breathing, thinking beings, and they have to be civil. There are so many things wrong with this perspective, including the implication that monsters like Hydras can't feel pain. Excuse me, Mr. Hydra. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the pain inflicted upon you by ponies? So, an 8? Longhorn ponders what to do about these defiant newcomers. And I should mention that while Longhorn's power boost is unexpected, I found him refreshing at first. We've had a bookworm who turned out wasn't supposed to be bad, an alternate world Celestia and Luna that were bad but turned good, and a Kelpie who tried to flood Ponyville, but with the best of intentions. It feels like it's been a while since these comics were willing to have a villain who was irredeemably bad. Longhorn fits that bill. I mean, just look at his face as he lights the Rancho Bronco barn on fire. And though Twilight and Rarity can use magic to douse the fire and embarrass Rainbow Dash, the rule is now no magic against equestrian citizens. Who just lit a barn on fire? I mean, how does this keep getting overlooked? Twilight's not even conflicted. She just gives a "what can you do" shrug. Let's take a pause real quick to talk about Twilight and magic. Some fans have praised that this comic introduced a way to keep Alicorn Princess Twilight in check, that she can't just magically solve a problem or use her position to force a resolution. Admittedly, I worried about the same thing in my very first video, yet this isn't a good way to resolve it. Because this idea is defined in absolutes: sit back and do nothing, or abuse her power. Even with the multitude of non-violent magic at her disposal, even with a history of intelligent use of magic in a bind, Twilight has suddenly become an all-or-nothing kind of pony. She is saying, doing something might look like abuse, and so, instead, I shall do nothing. And the nothingness continues the next day as the bulls interrupt a town meeting with a stampede, destroying whole buildings. Twilight assures the sheriff that it's just stuff. Twilight, just leave the comforting to Fluttershy.
That's a defeatist attitude.
Never mind, y'all just hush up. Tumbleweed makes it clear that it's more than just stuff. These ponies are heartbroken. And that's another reason why this isn't a parody. Although there are still some fun pop culture references.
Hey, where are the white women at?
The town ponies in this comic are played very straight-faced. There's no silliness or quirky personas to help the sense of comedy.
Sheriff, Mongo's back. Sheriff, Mongo's back. He's breaking up the whole town. You've got to help us, please.
Now, some fellow fans argue that Twilight is trying to teach the town to fend for itself, and she is trying to help, just not with magic. And fair enough. We saw an entire episode that demonstrated Twilight was more than just her magic. Yet as Twilight builds a trap for the bulls and Applejack builds a fence, there's no real teaching going on. Twilight seems far more delighted that she's come up with a funny name for the tar and feather trap. Sorry, a syrup and feather trap. A highly flammable syrup, apparently. Not gonna lie, these bulls are the third most hardcore sight in Equestria. They plowed through wood and barbed wire barricades, weren't even slowed down by Twilight's syrup and feather trap, then get lit on fire and still managed to shake down the town. The second most hardcore sight? Their goat mounts, who did all of that while carrying full-size bulls. And the most hardcore sight in Equestria? Mr. Cake changing diapers with his mouth. I'm sorry, you do not get more hardcore than that. Needless to say, the situation has escalated. Physical barriers didn't work, and the town is suffering. They need a stronger response. And still, Twilight stands idle.
Evil will always triumph, because good is dumb.
As does Rainbow. I'm pointing out Twilight's flaws, but Rainbow's been reduced to comedic relief for this story. The most action-oriented and aggressive of the main six, yet she hasn't tried to enter the fray even once. With the town ponies throwing in the towel, only Applejack shows true motivation as she appoints herself the new sheriff, which I'm not sure she can do. And that's just the first half of the story. During the intervening month, fans presented many justifications for Twilight's behavior. Twilight didn't have the strength to hold the bulls. She didn't have the jurisdiction. She's following some kind of Alicorn Prime directive. Ooh, we're going the tricky route. Hey, how often did Picard morally choose to violate the Prime directive?
Would it surprise you to learn that you have violated the Prime Directive a total of 9 times since you took command of the Enterprise?
Yet I do agree, there's more to Twilight than just magic. She's a leader, a planner, a wellspring of information. None of these qualities shine through in the story. It's like the writers took away one aspect and left the void unfilled. And it's about to go further into Crazy Land, because the second part starts with Longhorn filing for ownership of Rancho Bronco. Because his group's been illegally squatting, he's got a claim on the property, and the ponies treat this as a legitimate threat. The end of days. No mention of his criminal activity, or that the workers who have obviously been tending the crops would have a claim as well. Somehow, the laws of Equestria do more to hamstring the just than defend against aggressors. And this is where Longhorn loses my support. This plan is dumb. He robbed the town in broad daylight, without a mask, not that it would matter, and now he's trying to use a legal loophole. That only works because somebody dumped stupid pills into the drinking water. In fact, he'd look better if he'd put stupid pills in the drinking water. The usual trope is that the villain hires bandits to cause trouble so he can take advantage of the situation. Longhorn is great hired muscle, but he's not cut out to be the brains of this operation. Since Twilight forbids tearing up legal documents for convenience, a move for which I actually support her, our pony's counterplan is to lure the bulls away from their camp, move it off ranch grounds, and then say the camp was never on the property to begin with. They lure Longhorn away using incomplete forms and provide disappearing ink so that he'll never finish. Do they do this with the help of the local notary? Nope, because he's bound and gagged in the back. Wait, tearing up legal documents is bad, but trespassing, trespass to chattel, fraud, tampering, impersonating an official, obstruction of process, assault, and false imprisonment are okay? These are supposed to be the good guys, right? Now, I will credit that the schemes the ponies concoct are the closest this comic comes to genuine comedy. It's very Looney Tunes in its approach, and each pony gets a turn in the spotlight. But each attempt is undone because the ponies keep messing up, including being 12 feet short of the property line. And why aren't they using the metric system? It's so convenient. Here's the thing with Looney Tunes. The incompetence was on the part of the villains. No goods like Yosemite Sam would fall for Bugs Bunny's quips, and we'd have fun because they deserved it.
I hate that rabbit.
The Bull's incompetence can be rather funny since Longhorn is the true threat here, yet the fact the ponies keep failing makes them look less impressive. It's like every time this comic does something right, it simultaneously gets it wrong. But time and repetition favor the ponies. After Longhorn loses his patience and takes Rarity hostage, a third case of assault by the by, Twilight shows that she's had Celestia and Luna notarize a document making Rancho Bronco a historical site. Wait, Twilight had time to visit the princesses, even with Spike away at a Pony Trek convention, and she didn't come back with reinforcements? Well, she doesn't need them. Because the moment Longhorn kicks a historical landmark, the kitty shoes are off. Twilight magically seals them in a makeshift jail, which she could have done from the start. Rather than a moment of triumph, this is just insulting. Twilight wouldn't use her magic to help ponies in need. Wouldn't use it when the town was under attack. Wouldn't use it when her friends were being hurt. But she will use it for a historical landmark. Whatever, Longhorn is locked up, Tumbleweeds gains some backbone and takes back the role of sheriff, Great-Grand-Uncle Chili Pepper is still missing, and look how much our heroines care. I gotta say guys, I am struggling to find good things to say here. There are a few nuggets of humor to be found, especially around the use of the term bull, but that can't save this story. The ideas are faulty, the humor counterproductive, and the characterization is a mess. And as for you, Twilight, oh, come here. What, you think I'd hate you after something like this? Come on, who do you take me for? Come on. I'm a big fan of Twilight Sparkle as a character. And the Twilight I've watched over 4 seasons and several comic lines is smarter, kinder, and far more inclined towards justice than the pony in this comic. And that's important to remember. If you can't recognize this pony by her actions, well, that's why we have phrases like out of character. But that's as far as this goes. One bad comic does not undo the entire series. I'm not denouncing Katie Cook or cursing IDW's name. The good, the bad, and the ponies serves as an example of how sacrificing characters can unravel everything. The next issue is a new start with a new story, and there's hope that things can get back on track. Me, I'm gonna keep celebrating the Twilight Sparkle who knows how to use magic for the sake of others. Oh, and I'm keeping this because this thing is comedy gold. I'm Silver Quill, thanks for watching.